Welcome to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, and we will conclude the 5-part series today on child rearing. Throughout the week, we've looked at the different developmental stages of child growth. First, we looked at hope versus despair. We looked at purpose, competence. We looked at fidelity. We looked at love. We talked about care and wisdom. And as we closed out the conversation about care and wisdom, we actually wanted to make sure that everyone understood there comes a time in life to where we should have what most people call actualized, or come to a point in life where we are not only comfortable with where we are, but we're also progressing in such a way, or have progressed to the point that we are closer to doing what's right than being in a situation of remorse, because we know deep down in ourselves that we have not really done all of those things even close to what would have been the expectations of God or the expectations of a normalized society. So today, let's talk about emptying the nest. When children are reared, at some point we understand there is a purpose for developing that child from infancy to exiting the home. Letting go in the pure sense of usage really never happens completely. But to the level that the following stages have been mastered, the child exiting the home is accomplished. Will letting go become a fulfilling rather than a time of soul searching, filled with rationalization of one's failure to launch? Not L-U-N-C-H, but L-A-U-N-C-H. Have you done a good job in launching that child, now young adult, into the world around them? Have you done a good job in developing trust, developing autonomy, developing an initiative will inside the child, developing industrious thinking inside the child, developing a positive identity of who that individual is, developing, nurturing within the child the ability to have intimate relationships, not just identify with people, but to have intimate, not sex intimate, but intimate emotional, intimate feelings, intimate empathetic relationships with other individuals. Have you moved that child into a thinking as they began to age, the mid-30s, the early 50s, to being a generative person, meaning they are now in a place of gainful employment, but not just to hoard, but they understand they have been blessed and now they are in a position to give back socially, to give back educationally, and also to give back spiritually into lives just like you have blessed them. And then, do you look back and see that you've raised a child to have integrity? Raise that child so that when they are old and they begin to face the twilight years of their lives, that they do not look back with remorse. Have you ever seen people grow old and nobody wants to be around them? Their children don't want to be around them. Their grandchildren don't want to be around them. Their close kinsmen don't want to be around them. Even if they go to church, church people really don't want to be around them. Those are the integrity years, when people will seek you out for your wisdom and your understanding about life, and they want to glean from you elements that will launch them more successfully into their worlds. Here's some challenges that empty nesters face. Sometimes there's grief. Grief that you no longer have someone to raise, but then there's grief that you didn't raise the individuals correctly. There might be what we call episodal depression, and hopefully it will not transfer into long-term depression. Depression that says, am I useful? I miss the children so much. I miss them calling me every day. I miss having to go to baseball practice. I miss having to do this and I miss having to do that, to the degree that you really cannot function as an individual. Another challenge of empty nest is the lack of usefulness. If all of your energy and all of your efforts have been expended over the past number of years just focused on the child and their needs, then when that child exits the nest, there might be a feeling of, am I really a useful individual? There may be a feeling of anger. Anger, number one, that you've not done a good job. Anger, number two, that maybe there's some bitterness coming from your children regarding how you raise them. There could be anger from the spouses, knowing that one spouse allowed the other spouse really to not raise the children correctly. And that leads to resentment. Sometimes divorce even enters the picture during the empty nest years. In fact, couples who are married 20 to 30 years, when the nest empties, that is a critical divorce point in many relationships nationwide. Life and conversations has to be recreated during the empty nest years, because for the most part, all of the developmental years and the young adult years, the conversations between the spouses have been, guess what? About the children. Now, in the book of Psalms 127, verses 1 through 5, children, like arrows, are not made to keep. Arrows are made for a purpose. They're not made to just carry around in the bag or the quiver. Listen to the text. Except the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain that builds it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh, but in vain. It is a vain thing for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he giveth his beloved rest. Lo, children, he says, just like that, also children are a heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hands of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. And happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies at the gate. What is the psalmist saying? Children are given for a purpose, but children in the hands, like arrows in the hands of a mighty man, when you launch them, you aim. And when you begin to raise that child, you are raising that child to launch them at a specific place in this world, a place of productivity, a place of contentment, a place of love, a place of sharing, a place of support. You must begin to aim the child in the direction that you want to launch them when they go into the world as an independent, self-supporting, God-fearing young adult. Good launching of a child is a joy to a parent who has raised that child properly. But just like arrows that are not made correctly, just like arrows which are made correctly, and yet they are in the hands of individuals who really do not know how to handle the arrows, then that arrow that is made for a specific target may harm the environment around it. I hope as you raise your children that you will always remember children and child rearing is an art that must be learned. I'll see you back in class again next week. Don't be late and don't skip class.